Sir, could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Nicholas Daniel Dalrymple.
Which, if you can, the microphone is right in front of you. If you can maybe move a little bit closer so that everybody can hear. Could you restate your name for the record?
My name is Nicholas Daniel Dalrymple.
And could you spell your last name for the record?
My last name is Dalrymple.
Mr. Dalrymple, could you describe, did you have a residence during the month of February of 2017?
No, ma'am. Currently homeless.
And where is it that you would generally, I guess, just be during the day or during the night, specifically around the time of February 27th, February 28th of this year?
Usually by the park, by the library, or anywhere downtown.
And by park, which park are you referring to?
The park downtown by the library, right in front of the library.
Did you have belongings that you kept with you?
Yes, I had a backpack.
And what did you carry with you in your backpack?
Spare clothes, deodorant, shampoo, sometimes food.
And did you always have your backpack with you, or was there a place that you could keep the backpack?
I didn't always keep it with me. Usually I either kept it at the mission, or sometimes I stashed it in different areas where I know where it was safe at.
Okay. I want to draw your attention specifically to February 27th, that Monday night. Do you remember where you were that night and who you were hanging out with?
I was downtown hanging out with a friend, and we were on the main street of Broadway, and me and my friend George was drinking.
Could you describe George, just his general physical appearance?
Big black guy.
Do you remember specifically kind of what part of downtown y'all were hanging out at initially?
We were on Broadway at 3rd and 4th Street.
Okay.
Right in front of the bars scene right there.
And what, if anything, happened from that point of y'all hanging out downtown on Broadway?
From that point, when my buddy George, he passed out on the corner right there, me and...
Just let me stop you right there. You said you were hanging out and you were with George. Was anybody else there, or was it just the two of you?
Yes, there was another gentleman there with us.
Okay. And was that someone that you knew?
Yeah, well, I met him like a couple nights before. His name's Josh. He plays the guitar and plays music downtown.
Okay.
And him and the gentleman sitting over there in the orange was there with us.
So do you see another person in the courtroom today that was there with you and your friend George that night?
No.
Okay, you said you don't see anyone in
Oh
the
yeah,
courtroom today that was with
the
you?
guy in the orange sitting over there in handcuffs, he was there with us.
And you've kind of pointed with your eyes. Could you describe and point?
The guy right there.
So over my left shoulder to your right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, if the record could reflect that this witness has correctly identified the defendant in this case, Mr. Christopher McLawhorn?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that person's name that night?
No.
But you said you had seen him before, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And could you describe how was he acting when you first interacted with him downtown?
He was all right at first, and then he started getting a little aggressive because he was getting a little intoxicated.
Did you see him drink anything?
Yes, I actually, at that time, we both walked up to the store, and I did buy him a beer and a pack of cigarettes, and I bought Josh a beer too. And I was taking a couple sips of the whiskey my buddy had, George had. And when he passed out, the gentleman over here, he picked a little bottle up and he kind of downed the whiskey and finished it off.
And you're referring to Mr. McLawhorn.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened at that point? Did you stay downtown?
At that time we did, and then after George passed out, he decided to go to Walmart He asked me if I wanted to go to Walmart, and at first I was kind of eerie about it, and I said that I wasn't safe to do it. And then finally we started walking towards Walmart. And at that time when we started walking up towards Walmart,
So let me stop you right there. Kind of that night, Monday night of the 27th, did you stay downtown Broadway 3rd and 4th the whole night, or at any point did you go anywhere else before
No, we didn't.
heading to the Walmart?
we didn't stay the whole night. After my buddy passed out downtown, we went down by the riverfront, and that's where I stashed my bag. And from after we stashed our bag, that's when we started to walk towards Walmart.
And the area that you stashed your bag at the riverfront, could you describe that area?
It's where the train picks up and leaves, and where all the green bus picks up for the free ride. And where I stashed my bag was between two little blue buildings. It's right next to the dog park.
And so you put your bag up, and then do you go back to Broadway, or do you head to Walmart from that point?
We head towards Walmart up towards, we walk up Broadway up towards the little roundabout where the stadium is.
And are you originally from Nashville, Tennessee?
No, ma'am.
Are you familiar with the names of the streets?
Not really.
Do you remember passing any major places as you were walking towards this Walmart?
I remember the Room and Inn, the gas station, and the U-Haul.
And had you ever been to the Walmart before that you were headed to?
No, ma'am.
Did you know how to get there?
No, ma'am.
And so you said at one point you remember passing a room at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And did you say there was a circle?
Yes.
Could you describe that?
The roundabout has these weird things that stick straight up. And it's right by the precinct downtown, too. And they have a parking lot off to the side.
And at that point that you're at the roundabout, who is with you at that point?
Christopher, the guy sitting right over here.
Mr. McLawhorn?
Yeah.
It was just the two of you, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Could you describe, was he saying anything? How was he acting?
At that time, he was a little intoxicated, and he started saying, "Let's make some money." And then we walked up the road a little bit, right across the Room and Inn, and that's when he went first into an alleyway, and he started pulling up on doors. And
Mr. Dalrymple, if I can stop you for just a moment, I want to hand you two photographs, which I've shown to defense counsel. Which, if you could take a look at both of those. Do you recognize those photographs?
yes, ma'am, that's myself and Mr. McLaughlin.
And do you recognize the area that you're in?
Yes. It's downtown, right across from the Hard Rock Cafe.
Does that look like the images of you from that night of what you've already testified to about being downtown with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask if the witness could be handed a pen, and if he could initial and date both of those photographs. If you could actually initial and date it either on the back or maybe on the edge.
What's today's date?
Today's date, I believe, is March 16th. I'm going to hand you an additional photograph, which again, defense counsel has seen. Do you recognize the image in that photograph?
I know that's me and Mr. McLaughlin, but I didn't know exactly where this is.
So you're not familiar with the exact street?
No, ma'am.
But you do recognize that as it being you and Mr. McLawhorn?
Yes, ma'am.
And does that appear to be the two of you from that night?
Yes, ma'am.
And Your Honor, at this time I'd ask that the witness also initial and date that photograph. one more photograph to show you at this time. Do you recognize what's shown in that photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
And could you describe what that is?
That is the actual blue buildings that I stashed my stuff at, and he had his stuff, and that is the dog park right in front of it.
And when you say he had his stuff there, who are you referring to?
Mr. McLawhorn.
Mr. McLawhorn?
Yeah.
And if I could ask if you could do the same and initial and date the back of that photograph, there was somewhere on it. That night, when you're with Mr. McLawhorn and y'all are walking, can you describe what he was wearing?
He was wearing at the perfectly night. He was wearing a hoodie. He was also wearing cut-off jeans with the brown boots that he always wears.
And you said, did you say cut-off jeans?
They were jeans with like the stylish kind with the cuts in them, the slash marks in them and stuff.
So would that be fair to say that it was kind of a fraying,
Yeah.
and they weren't cut-offs like shorts?
No,
is
they
that
weren't
correct?
cut-offs. They were full jeans, but they had the stylish cuts in them where they fray them and stuff.
Could you describe the boots?
The boots were brown, but they weren't the pointy type boots. They were like the roundish end of.
And when you say pointy type, is there a particular style of boot?
I mean,
Are they work boots or cowboy boots or snow boots?
they're cowboy boots, but they're not the pointy type cowboy boots. They
It's a
have,
round
like,
toe.
Yes.
Okay. And you said that he was wearing a hoodie. Did you ever see him with the hoodie down?
No, ma'am.
And you were describing that you're walking towards the Walmart. You've passed the circle with the kind of big spike things in the ground.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that he began pulling on car doors.
Yes.
Did he say anything to you prior to doing that or while he was doing it?
It was like we need to make some money, and that's the way he can make money.
What did you see him do?
He went up. He's like, hold on a second, and he walked up into the alleyway and he started pulling on cars. He did get into one, but I just kept on walking, and that's when he came back out. But he didn't tell me if he got anything or anything like that.
And could you again describe his how was he acting?
He was still intoxicated. He started.
Was he being nice and kind of jovial, funny? What was his kind of?
He was kind of at a calm manner. He wasn't really mad or anything like that at the time. He wasn't aggressive at that point. I guess he just had the alcohol in him and he started feeling good about himself. So that's when we started walking up the road a little bit more and followed straight up that road, and that's when he went off into the neighborhood, and that's when he started pulling on more car doors. And then after he came out of the neighborhood, we kept walking straight up the road, and that's where the neighborhood next to the U-Haul, that's when he went up in there, and that's when I ran across the street and tapped on the gas station door to call the police to let them know that he was going inside doors on car doors. And at that time the police found me and they told me I was good to leave, and that's when.
So let me stop you right there. You said that he was pulling on car doors.
Yes, ma'am.
And he had gone down a street. And you described that as being close to the U-Haul, is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct?
I can't remember the name of the street that he was on.
Had he said anything else about what he's doing, what he's planning on doing?
He just kept on saying he wanted to make money, that's all. He wanted to get money, and he said that a lot of people, what they do is in apartments and stuff, he said a lot of people keep their doors unlocked. So it's easy for him to get inside the place and get whatever he needs and get out at a quick time. And at that time, he walked up that street right next to the U-Haul, and he started pulling on doors. He's like, just wait for me. I was like, no. And when he was down there, I took off running because I was scared myself because I didn't know what was all going to go on. And I'm not that type of person to steal from nobody or hurt anybody. You know what I mean? I wouldn't hurt a soul in my life. I'd rather protect people. And for somebody to do something like that, he needs to, I'm not going to go on, but at that time I crossed the street and went to the store.
I'm going to ask that you be passed 2 photographs. Do you recognize the images in those photographs?
Yes, this first one right here is where, when I crossed the street to go tell the guy and call the police. This one right here is where I tapped on the window to tell him that the guy was going through the doors.
And you're describing a photograph that has kind of 6 frames on it.
Yes.
In the bottom lower right-hand corner frame, you can see yourself in that
Yes.
picture. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that second photograph is that.
This is me also, a close-up me at the gas station tapping on the window to call the police to tell him that he was over across the street going in car doors.
And if I could ask if you could initial and date those 2 photographs as well. You've described that you tapped on the window, told the clerk to call the police. What happened at that point?
At that point, whenever I got done talking to the clerk, I stood outside and waited for a cop to show up. And I used my same phone to call the cops too, just so I know that I was making sure that the cops were coming and that they'd get there quicker. And at that time, I looked up and there was a police officer sitting at the red light, and I waved him down to come over there. He came over and talked to me, and I pointed to exactly across the street where he went down in the neighborhood. And that cop directly went across the street over there to the street, and then there was another officer that came out through the back alley. And so I ran over to the one where the back alley was so I could let him know that the police officer was across the street. And he asked me if I was the caller, and I said yes, me and the guy at the store, the clerk at the store, was the caller. And I directed him to where the cop went over the first time.
And after you spoke with the police officers, what did you do at that point?
After I spoke to the police officer, I stood there and waited for one of the police officers to come back to make sure I was fine to leave and find my way to Walmart.
And did you make it to Walmart?
No, ma'am, I could not find the Walmart at all. I walked down that road past all those apartments to the McDonald's, and I stopped at McDonald's, had me a cheeseburger. And after I ate, I asked the gentleman in there where the Walmart was, and he said that he didn't know, but he knew that it was farther down. So I left there and I walked to the gas station next to that, beside it, and I went in there and was trying to find a portable charger for my cell phone, but it was too much, so I didn't get it. And I asked them where the Walmart was, and they said, man, it's like clear out that road, you got to turn. So I walked all the way up, I left the store, turned, walked all the way up to the underpass. And I was like, this is too far. I decided to just turn around and leave and go back. And at that time, when I was walking back, it started getting a little daylight, and the bus started coming down the road. And so I decided to hop on the bus. And at that time, I seen all the ambulances and the police, and I was asking people on the bus what was going on. They said they didn't know.
Where did you see the ambulance and the police?
Across the street in the apartment complex area.
And what was it across the street from?
That's across the street, like from the gas station, and it's actually right behind the U-Haul.
Where did you take the bus to?
Downtown. I got off the bus at downtown and went and hung out with my friend at the park before I went to the McDonald's to have breakfast. And when I was sitting at McDonald's, I was sitting there watching the TV, and then the coverage came on with the
Objection to this. What he hears on the TV is not admissible.
Your Honor, I'm not asking any question eliciting what he heard on TV, but I do think that he can testify to what he saw.
That's fine.
Anyways, on the TV, on the news, it showed a video coverage of him walking past the gate. And when I was eating, I was telling myself, oh my goodness, that is the guy that I was with.
And so you saw news coverage of the actual, what you found out to be, ended up being a murder, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you saw this, I guess the images that they were showing on the news, did that appear to be surveillance
Yes, ma'am.
footage?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you able to immediately identify who that person was in that footage?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that person?
The gentleman sitting right over here, Mr. I can't say his last name, but
Mr. McLawhorn.
yeah.
And that was the person that you had been at that night before.
Yes, ma'am.
And at that point, what did you do?
At that point, I actually got on my phone and looked it up on my phone and watched it so I can actually see it up close, where I can blow the screen up so I can actually see it. And that's when I actually was like, yes, that's him. And then I left and I went downtown.
What was it about the footage that made you know it was him? What did you recognize?
The way he walks and his clothes, like his pants and the boots.
And so at that point, where did you go?
And at that point, I completely went back downtown, and I was hanging back out with George. And that same night, when I went to go get my bag, I was with the security officer, because I know the security officer, and I asked him if he could walk to the blue boxes in the photo so I can get my stuff, because I know that he was out, but I didn't know if he was caught yet. And when I went to the blue boxes to grab my backpack, he was standing and hiding behind the blue boxes, and at that time I took off running back to the security officer and said, the guy is down here. And that's when he started walking off.
And when you say he, who are you referring to?
Mr.
Mr. McLawhorn.
Yeah. That's
And
when,
you saw him at that area where you had kept your backpack.
yes ma'am.
Did he keep anything in that same area, or why is it that you asked the security guard to go with you?
Because I was kind of scared myself, because after what he did, I was scared to go anywhere by myself at the time. And I wanted to make sure that he was actually caught, because I know a security officer, he can do whatever he can. And at that time, the security officer called the police, and I called the police myself. And that's when they started coming around the corner.
How close did you get to Mr. McLawhorn at that day?
At the blue boxes, when I got my stuff, I was right next to him.
Could you describe him, what he was wearing? Was he wearing the same clothes that you saw him in the night before?
No, he completely changed his pants.
And what about the hoodie he was wearing the night before?
Yes, he completely changed that too.
And was there anything the same? You described cowboy boots. Did he have those on?
He still had his cowboy boots on. Yes, ma'am.
And do you remember, was he wearing any type of jacket or anything
He was.
on his head?
He was wearing a camouflage jacket.
And what about his head? Was it covered at all?
Yes, what he was wearing was like a teal beanie at the time.
And what happened at that point? You said that you called the police officers.
Yes, and he started walking whenever I ran back. This is when he actually started taking off and going up the street towards the big music thing right there. Right there in the park.
The amphitheater?
Yes, that's it. He went in there, and that's where he walked in to get away from the police, and then that's when they went inside and started questioning him.
And did you talk to police or detectives?
Yes, I talked to the police and the detectives that night.
And after speaking with them, at any point, did you actually go with them and show them exactly where you had been?
Yes. That was actually the next day, whenever they picked me up and took me back to the precinct and questioned me and asked me all the questions when I knew. Excuse me. And then then we drove around and showed them.
And
everything.
you were able to point out the exact places that you were at
Yes, ma'am.
and where different things happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see Mr. McLawhorn again after that day with the security officer?
Yes, actually, the next day, I guess they released him after questioning, and then he got back out. And I seen him again that night, and I told a police officer, but then he disappeared, and we were walking around trying to search for him and look for him because I knew the guy. So we couldn't find him, and then the detectives, they left, and then right after they left, he was in a car with another one of my friends, Josh, and the guy Josh told me that he was in the car with him riding around, and he said that he was going to try to slow him down so I can get back down there to see if it was actually him. And when he came back down there, Josh, the guitar player Josh, was playing, and he was standing there. And when I walked down, I ran across the street and got another police officer, and the police officer ran across the street and stopped him. And at the time, he had a beer on him, and he was trying to stuff the beer in his pocket. And he also had a beer and some marijuana on him. That's what they stated. So they apprehended him then.
And the him that you're referring to,
Mr. McLawhorn.
Mr. McLawhorn, could you describe, was there anything about him when you saw him that day that you remember being distinctive?
His face.
Did he look the same that he had when you saw him previously?
Yes, he had the beard going, and then he had the next night after all that happened, he had the same teal hoodie, the teal thing on, and he had a green jacket, the camouflage jacket on.
And I want to kind of go back that the first time you see him after you've broken off from him and you go to the gas station is at the blue boxes.
Yes, ma'am.
On First Avenue on the riverfront.
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, did you get close enough to him, and were you looking at him long enough to see his face and everything about him?
Not really. All I saw was his face and the beard and what he was wearing.
Okay. And was he doing anything when you saw him at the blue boxes?
Was this the same night when we stashed, or the second night when I ran up on him with the security guard?
When you saw him with the security guard?
He was the same except for his clothes. He completely changed his clothes except for his boots.
And what was he doing?
He was standing there on his phone.
Okay.
It was dark, so he was pretty much hidden. Nobody could really see him because he was between the two blue boxes in the little bathroom thing. He was standing like right between it in the dark, so you couldn't really see him.
Okay. And then when you see him again, and you had been looking for him, and you went and got the police officer, were you able to see him better that day?
Yes.
And was there anything about him that you remember that was different?
His clothes, the green camo jacket, and his neck, where he had marks on his neck from where that I believe that she was trying to fight him.
Personal knowledge.
You don't know how those marks got there, is that right?
No.
But you did notice that those had not been there from that night before when you were with him, is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to show you a photograph. And ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that a photograph of?
This is a photograph of him with totally different jeans on.
And when you say
And
totally different from what?
it's different jeans from what he was wearing the night that the incident happened.
From that Monday night?
Yes. They don't have the jeans, they don't have the cuts in them like he was wearing. The boots are the same, and that's the teal hat I see him wearing the second time I seen him.
And in that photograph, are you able to see the injuries to his neck that you just described?
Yes, ma'am. They're right there in his neck right there.
And Your Honor, I would ask the witness if he could also initial and date that photograph as well. And if I can have just one second. Thank you, Mr. Dalrymple. I don't have any other questions for this witness.
Yes, sir.
Which, Your Honor, I guess the photographs, we are going to ask that they be introduced as evidence.
Okay. Any objection?
No, sir.
All right.
You said you're not from Nashville, so some of the streets might have been fuzzy for you.
Yes, sir.
Where are you from?
I'm actually from Phoenix, Arizona.
And how long have you been out here?
About 6 months.
Okay. And I want to start just right at the beginning of your story. So you're over at the park not far from downtown, not far from here, right?
Yes.
And is that a place that you frequent?
No, I'm not really frequent there. I mean, I go there to catch the free bus.
All right. And you said that you were drinking, and there was a guy named George with you, right?
Yes.
And George was drinking too?
Yes.
Sounds like George was drinking pretty heavily.
Yes.
Were you drinking pretty heavily?
No.
What were you drinking? Beer?
I mean, I
liquor?
was taking a couple sips of the whiskey, but I wasn't like completely down in it and abbreviated myself.
All right. Just a couple sips of his whiskey then?
Yes.
And what time did you guys start drinking that night?
Oh man, before all that happened, man, we walked over to there was a liquor store that I walked with George to, but it was like probably about 8 or 9 that night.
All right. And was anybody using drugs or smoking?
No.
Is George a friend of yours or somebody you met just then?
No, George is a pretty good friend of mine.
All right. So you knew George leading up to this?
Yes.
And you mentioned 2 people named Josh. Or you mentioned Josh twice. Are there 2 people named Josh in the
Yes,
story?
sir.
Were either Josh there at this time?
Yes. The Josh guitar Josh was there.
Guitar Josh was there.
Yes.
Is that the Josh that knows Mr. McLawhorn?
Yes.
Are do both of them?
The other Josh don't really know him. Told him.
Did the police officer have his lights on or sirens on?
No.
Did he get out of his car? The police officer?
No.
So you spoke to him through the window?
Yes.
And you told him what you just told us, right?
Yes.
Did he get out of the car at that point and start looking around?
The police officer?
Yes, sir.
No, when he left, he went down to the neighborhood. I don't know what he did from after that.
All right, so he drives off in the direction you told him to?
Yes.
Did he take your name?
Yes. Now there was 2 officers. The second one came down the alley, and he had his top lights on, the shining lights.
Do you think maybe that's the one responding to your call?
It might have been because
Oh.
he did state and ask me if I was the caller.
And so you spoke to him too then?
Yes.
And did you tell him what you told us?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, sir.
I'm going to move ahead a little bit. It sounds like I got the details down of you going to the McDonald's. I'm going to move to what I think was the next time you saw Mr. McLawhorn. That was the next day?
Which
I'm
one?
talking about, you see him at the blue box as the security guard.
Yes, that was the same day, but later in the day
Okay.
after the incident.
What time could you guess, like mid-afternoon, later at night?
It was later that night.
Okay. Dark out then.
Yeah.
How close did you get to him before getting to the security guard? Mr. McLawhorn. How close did you get to Mr. McLawhorn?
I was pretty right next
Did he
next to
say
him.
Did he say anything to you?
No, because I don't think he knew I was there.
Okay, so he maybe didn't see you. You got a good look at him now?
Oh, yes.
Were you able to see if his clothing was tattered or had any blood on it?
No.
You go to get the security guard, I guess that's for your safety because you're nervous about what you think might have happened.
Yes, sir.
And was the security guard working at a store or
No, he was working at the train station.
Okay, so it's the train station security guard.
Yes.
And when you approached him, you told him what you thought might be going on. And did he walk over to the suspect with you?
Yes.
All right, and did Mr. McLawhorn notice either of you at that point?
I'm not sure if he noticed us, but I know he was walking pretty fast.
Didn't say anything to you? No. Didn't look back at you as far as you saw?
No.
And I take it that means you didn't ask him anything? There was no, hey, what happened last night?
Who?
You didn't ask, I take it by that interaction, you didn't ask Mr. McLawhorn,
No,
hey,
sir.
what happened, or hey, I saw the news?
No.
Did you speak with the police again right after that encounter?
Yes.
And as far as you knew, based off of what you told them, they apprehended him?
Yes, basically what they did is they told me to leave so that they could walk him out of the park and put him in the back seat of the car.
And then I think you said that after you saw him be apprehended, you saw him again, another encounter, right?
Yes.
And that's when other Josh comes in, right?
Yes.
So other Josh, not Guitar Josh, but other Josh is driving Mr. McLawhorn?
No, he is in the Josh guitar. The guy that plays the guitar, Josh. They were in his car, his vehicle.
So two Joshes and Mr. McLawhorn.
Yeah.
And the other Josh, not Guitar Josh, but how well do you know him? The
I know.
passenger Josh.
I know him pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty much try to look out for him because he's mentally not all there. So I try to look out for him as much as possible.
Had you told him what you thought had happened the night before, the nights before? Passenger Josh.
Yes, we talked about it.
And was it just by chance, or was it a plan that you'd get close enough to Mr. McLawhorn, or he would get close enough to Mr. McLawhorn?
No, it wasn't a plan. He just was in the same car with him, and he told me that he texted my phone and said I was in the same car as him. And I'm trying to startle him because we need him caught because of the stuff that he commented while he was riding with him.
Okay. And was this only through text, or did you see them in the car?
No, it was only text.
And those text messages went to your phone?
Yes.
And did you turn those over to the police?
No. There's no way I could turn it over to the police because that phone is completely messed up. I had to get a brand new phone.
What kind of phone was it? Was it the flip phone?
No, I have the flip phone now. The other phone I had was a ZTE. It was like one of those little government phones.
Okay. I heard you comment or testify to something that the second time or later when you saw him, he had a beard going.
A beard.
You testified, you said something that I think either the second time you saw him or after the incident that he was growing a beard. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, he had a...
The night that you walked with him or were walking with him toward Walmart, did he have a clean shave or a beard or any facial
No, he
hair?
was scraggly.
Scraggly?
Like he was growing.
Okay, like hadn't shaved in 4 or 5 days?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. We got approach. Housekeeping amendment here is Martha.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you, Judge.
So that's the 5th.
3.
3. I'm a month ahead.
You can write the word up too. That's easier.
Registered.
You step down. Thank you.
Here are the state's witness. Next witness would be John O'Donnell. Would you please state your name and spell your last name?
My name is John O'Donnell. My O-D-O-N-N-E-L.
Mr. O'Donnell, if you can, speak up loudly for us.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're recording this.
Okay.
Mr. O'Donnell, are you originally from Nashville?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have a...
No, I'm not.
Not originally?
I'm from Knoxville, but I live in Nashville.
Okay. And do you have a permanent residence here in Nashville? A
No.
permanent home that you live in?
No.
Where, without being too specific, in the general area, where do you normally spend your time in Nashville?
Around Staff Zone, where I work.
Okay. And while out on the streets in Nashville, do you on occasion run into other individuals who also don't have a permanent home?
Yes, ma'am.
After February 28th of this year, did you encounter someone who had some unusual marks or injuries to his neck?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me, where were you when you encountered this individual?
I was on Broadway.
Do you remember if it was day or night?
It was nighttime.
And what were you doing and what was this other individual doing?
We were just on Broadway, just down there.
And while you were there, what was it that was unusual about this individual's neck?
It just said he had marks on his neck.
Okay. Mr. O'Donnell, I'm going to ask that this photograph be handed to you and ask you to look at that. Does that photograph of that neck look familiar to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And does that photograph, is it consistent with the injuries on the neck of the individual you were speaking with that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time we would ask that he be allowed to turn that over and mark his initials in today's date, which would be March 16th of 2017. And Your Honor, we'd ask to move that into evidence. If you would, please tell us about your conversation and how it began with this individual that had the marks on the neck.
We were downtown. We just started talking, just ran into each other.
And how did the subject about his neck come about? Who brought it up, you or him?
We were talking about, I'd gotten into a fight, and we were talking about that, and he said that he showed me his marks and said he fell through a barbed wire fence and caught his neck.
Said he fell through a barbed wire fence?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what caused it?
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that statement?
I said, there ain't no way. I mean, it could be possible, but he's a grown man, and usually people don't get their neck caught in the fence.
Did you share your skepticism with him?
Yeah.
And when you told him that you were skeptical about that, what, if anything, did the man with the marks on his neck say to you?
He said, well, that's not the truth. He told me what happened.
What did he say to you? What, he said he told you the truth?
He said he killed a lady. He said he killed someone that there was marks, like that. It came from the woman.
So he told you that he killed someone?
Yeah.
And that the marks came from the killing?
Yeah, the fight, the struggle.
Okay. And you said something about the person that he killed. Did he tell you whether that person was a man or a woman?
A woman.
Did he make any other statements to you about why he killed that individual?
Yeah, he said she woke up and he didn't know what to do.
She woke up and he didn't know what to do?
No. It shocked him, you know what I mean?
Did he say where he was when this woman woke up and he killed her?
In an apartment.
In her apartment?
Yeah.
Did he say what he was doing when she woke up? Why he was in her apartment?
He said he was in there just trying to get something for some money.
Trying to get something for some money?
Yes.
Did he tell you anything about watching the television after
Yeah, he said he found the next morning that she died
he found out the next morning that she died?
Yeah.
And how did he find out that she died?
from the news.
Did he mention anything, any items in particular that he took from that apartment?
No.
Did you have an opportunity at some point to see a surveillance video,
Yes.
and was that on the TV as well?
No, my buddy Marlowe showed me on his cell phone.
Okay. And the surveillance video that he showed you, was it one that was posted by the news media relating to a murder?
It was on the internet, so he pulled it up on the internet.
Okay. And what did that surveillance video look like?
It showed a man in the hood walking across the parking lot.
And when you viewed that video, what, if anything, did you recognize?
The way he walked.
The way he walked? And so what, when you saw the individual in the surveillance video walk, whose walk did it appear to be to you?
Same guy.
The same guy? When you say the same guy, do you
Just
mean the
the
same
one I
guy
was
with the
with.
marks on the neck?
Yeah.
Did you know that individual's name?
No.
Had you seen him before that night?
No.
Did you happen to, at some point, share this information with police?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I'm a Marine, and I asked one of my buddies what I should do, and he said, do the right thing.
You said you're what?
I'm a Marine.
Former
Yeah.
Marine?
Yeah.
Okay. And you wanted to do the right thing?
Yeah.
Did you have an encounter with the police at the time? Was there a situation?
No, I just walked up to the car and told him, I said, don't, you need to talk to somebody.
Okay. And when you told him, did you, in addition to speaking with the patrol officer, did you agree to come down to the station and give a statement to the police?
No, I just walked off.
Okay. At some point later on, did the police contact you?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you tell those police officers what this man with the scratches on his neck told you?
Yeah. Yes.
And did you actually go to the police station and give a recorded statement about
Yes, ma'am.
about what you saw?
Yeah.
Were you able to describe what this person looked like?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what, if anything, the man with the scratches had on his head at the time?
Toboggan.
And you may or may not be able to, but do you see that person here in the courtroom today?
Yeah.
The man that came up and made the statements about killing a woman in her apartment?
Yeah.
Could you point him out and describe something he's wearing?
In orange.
Let the record reflect, Your Honor, he stated the man in the orange and he has identified the defendant. And Mr. O'Donnell, when a person testifies, it's allowable to go into if they've ever been convicted of a crime of dishonesty. You actually have been convicted of a misdemeanor criminal impersonation,
Yeah.
correct? And that was back in 2009, correct?
Yeah.
You also were convicted of a misdemeanor theft of property in 2016?
Yeah.
And you were also arrested in May of 2012 for a misdemeanor criminal impersonation, correct? Well, Mr. O'Donnell, you really aren't excited about having to testify here today, are you?
No.
Okay. You were willing to speak and cooperate with the police, correct?
Yeah.
But having to be in a courtroom, cameras present, that's not something you look forward to or wanted to do, correct?
No.
Okay. And why are you here telling the truth in the courtroom today?
Because my buddy told me to do it, and that's why I'm doing it.
Doing the right thing? Thank you, sir.
I want to start with your encounter with Mr. McLawhorn.
Okay.
The two of you were just out on the street, I take it?
Yeah.
And had you ever met him before?
No.
And was he drinking?
No.
Were you drinking?
Yeah.
What time did you start drinking, or how many hours before or minutes before did you start drinking?
I had one beer and then one My Card lemonade. It was a My Card lemonade. One My Card lemonade.
So you had a Mike's Hard Lemonade and a beer?
No, I had Mike's Hard
Oh, it was
lemonade.
just Mike's Hard Lemonade. All right. And what prompted you to engage in conversation with Mr. McLawhorn?
We started talking,
Were the two of you sitting, standing?
standing.
Just standing? Was there anything happening, or just standing for the sake of standing?
We were just standing there.
Just hanging out.
Ran each other, stopped at the same spot, and we was talking.
All right, so he starts talking to you. What's the first thing he says?
He just said, hey.
Just hey?
Yeah.
All right. And you mentioned, I want to talk about the marks on his neck. You asked about the marks on his neck, or he volunteered the information?
We were just talking about, I got into a fight, and we were talking about that, and, he just said that he had fallen through the barbed wire fence.
So you start, somehow a conversation starts about, fighting, and you tell him a story about you being in a fight, right? And his response to that is he fell in a barbed wire fence, or does he start talking about fights that he'd been in?
Just kind of talking about, just talking about fighting, marks and fighting, we were talking about.
Did you say, hey, what's that on your neck?
I'm just looking at his neck. I saw the marks.
All right, so he tells you the first thing he says is, I fell into a barbed wire fence, right?
Yeah,
About the mark, right?
yeah, that's what he's saying.
And you said that you felt that was unusual.
Yeah.
And what was your response to that? You told him, I don't believe you?
I just said it's unlikely that you get your neck caught in a barbed wire fence.
And he went from that to telling you that he killed someone.
He just said, he just told me. He said, well, it's not really what happened.
When he said that's not really what happened, did you pry any further?
I said, well, what happened?
Or was it unsolicited?
I said, what happened?
And he went from that to, I killed someone.
He said, well, I'm going to tell you the truth about something.
And you'd never met him before?
No.
Did you find it unusual that a stranger would confess a murder to you?
Yeah.
You spoke with the police in close proximity to that encounter, right?
Yeah.
Did you say you walked over to them?
To the police?
Yeah. And they were nearby, I take it, right?
Yeah.
So, when you walked over to the police, what did Mr. McLawhorn do?
Mr. McLawhorn.
This man right here.
He wasn't with me.
Okay, so you waited until he left to tell the police?
Yeah.
All right. How long after he had left did you tell the police?
Next day.
Okay, so it had been a day.
Yeah.
And that, I guess, gave you time to ask your friend what to do?
Yeah.
And so the next day you tell the police, and then did they take down your name and information?
Yeah.
And you gave them, I take it you have a cell phone and you gave them the number?
No, I don't have a cell phone.
How did they get into contact with you later?
You put a bolo on.
Okay, so after, I guess, they pieced some of your information together, or after you talked to this police officer, you just walked off and left, right?
Yeah.
And this police officer, did he stay or go?
He stayed there.
All right. Was he writing anything down that you had said?
Wrote my name down.
Name down when you told him the story that you just told us, was he
Right.
taking notes?
Yeah.
All right. And when you walked away from the police officer, did you stay in that area or leave the area?
I left.
And How long after that did another police officer come and make contact with you? Days, hours?
A couple of days.
Couple of days later? And is that the day that you went to the police station to make a statement?
Yeah.
And one last question for you, just about your interaction with him. Was it just the two of you one-on-one speaking?
Yeah.
Thanks, Chad.
Mr. O'Donnell, now, you had 2 encounters with the police. One of those involved them speaking with you about a criminal trespass. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was that on the first occasion or on the second occasion?
First.
The first occasion?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up. Did they approach you about a criminal trespass, or did you approach them?
I was sleeping across from, I'm homeless, man. I was sleeping across from the mission in the parking lot, and they woke me up.
And is that when you volunteered the information?
No.
Oh.
They had a bolo on me.
All right. Did you think that you were going to jail when they came and woke you up?
Yeah.
And did you go to jail?
Yeah. No, I didn't go to jail. Did not go to jail. They cuffed me. And I thought I was going to jail.
And it turned out they just wanted you for this.
Well, they just let me go.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Nothing further, Mr. Witness, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Next witness is Detective Chad Gish. Detective, could you please state your name for the record?
Chad Gish.
And are you employed by the Metro Nashville Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
What is your position there?
I'm a detective in a unit within the Criminal Investigation Division called Surveillance and Investigative Support.
And as part of your duties, do you do forensic analysis on mobile devices?
I do.
And at some point in the last, I guess, week or so, were you contacted by Detective Anthony Chandler of the Metro Nashville Police Department regarding this case?
I was. He contacted me on Friday the 10th, but I was really familiar with the case because we had 3 detectives working on some other evidence, Corey Sanderson, Jay Moyer, and Chad High. So when he contacted me on the 10th at about 11 o'clock, we had had discussions about this evidence, and he brought the evidence to me then.
And specifically, what was the first piece of evidence that you looked at after Detective Chandler contacted you on the 10th?
It was a cell phone that belonged to Christopher McLawhorn.
And did you analyze that mobile device?
I did.
And what type of platform did you use when you analyzed it?
Celebrate.
And that, and kind of initially when you're first looking at it, I guess, is that analysis complete at this time?
No, I would say probably 20% completed at this time. I've spent many, many hours on it, probably 10 to 15 hours, but it's a lot of data to comb through.
And when you were first analyzing the device, were you asked to specifically look at a certain time frame or something specific?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I knew about the case when the case happened because other detectives were working in other aspects of evidence. So when I met with Detective Chandler, he was able to give me a timeline of events of what happened, specifically when the murder happened. So at that time, I knew the murder happened around on February the 28th, or probably around 5:35 or 5:40 in the morning. I had a timeline of events probably 12 hours previous to that, and then a day or two after the murder.
And at this point in the analysis, were you able to locate anything that was related to that timeline of events?
Very significant data.
And what type of data is that?
Internet history off of McLawhorn's phone.
And could you describe the internet history that you located and the relevant portions to that timeline you've just described?
Yeah, sure, I have it with me here. Doing the analysis, this preliminary analysis, I knew that the murder probably happened at about 5:35 or 5:40 in the morning on the 28th. So when I started looking at internet history, specifically, I started looking to see what the first internet history would be by the suspect after the murder. The first page, the first hit that I found was on, and all of these, Judge, will be on 2/28. It was at 9:02 in the morning at 31 seconds, and the suspect opened up his Google browser. Right after that, when he opened up his Google browser at 9:02:45 seconds, he typed in the search term within Google, Nashville, Tennessee stabbing. And that brought him to a page from WKRN News, and the web page title, and again, this was at 9:02 in the morning, Metro Police investigating after woman found stabbed inside Nashville condo. So at 9:02:57, he went to a different page. This page was the Tennessean.com, and the title of that web page was Woman Fatally Stabbed in Nashville's Wedgwood Neighborhood. He was there for about 25 seconds, went to another page at 9:03:15 seconds in the morning, Metro Police investigating after woman found inside Nashville condo. That was the same page that he went to previously. Accessed that same story on WKRN a second time. Then at 9:03:18, same site, WKRN News, and he's back to Metro Police search for Nashville stabbing suspect. And then 9:03, WKRN News, Metro Police investigating after woman found stabbed inside Nashville condo. He's on that page for almost a minute, refreshes the page, it looks to be, and actually got to that page by typing in, again, on Google, Nashville, Tennessee stabbing. He's on that same page 4 different times from 9:03:18 seconds until 9:05:25 seconds. At 9:05:52 seconds, he's actually on Google again, the homepage for Google, and he searches pawn shop. At 9:06, he's on that same search again, 9:06:01, searching pawn shop, and at 9:06:52, a final search on Google for pawn shop. At 9:06:54, he's back to the WKRN page, Metro Police investigating after woman found stabbed inside Nashville condo. And then at 9:06:55, he's at Google. And then at 9:06:57, he's at boostmobile.com, which would be his service provider for that telephone. And then there's a big gap. There's a gap in the internet history at that point. There's no other searches recovered from 9:06:57 in the morning until 3:25:25 in the morning. So we're looking at a little over 6 hours right there. There's a gap of no internet.
So 3:25:25 p.m.
PM.
on February 28th.
On the 28th. So, yes, ma'am. I think I may have said a.m. on that. But it's 9:06:57 a.m. in the gap, and the next search starts at 3:25:25 p.m. And right then, he's back onto that same page again at WKRN.com. Police search for killer after woman stabbed inside Nashville condo. And then at 3:25:25, I just read that one, sorry. And at 3:29:37, roughly 4 minutes after, he's on a website from WZTV. Wedgwood stabbing sends woman to the hospital. And then around 4 minutes later, at 3:33:24, he is on a website called Onan.com. and he accesses the page, latent print examination. Will the rain wash away fingerprints? And that is at 3:33:24. About 30 seconds later, after going to that will the rain wash off fingerprints page, he actually accesses Yahoo Answers. Yahoo Answers is an application within the Yahoo platform that answers can be asked and answered by different users. And the question he asked, the page title that he got at 3:33:45 was, "Can rain wash off fingerprints?" And that was Yahoo Answers. Then at 3:34:17, he's at WZTV again. Wedgwood stabbing sends woman to the hospital. And then at 3:47:43, he's actually on weather.com. Severe weather risk for Midwest. So he's checking the weather at 3:47:43. At 3:50:02, back to WKRN.com. Police search for killer after woman stabbed inside Nashville condo. And then 5 seconds later, he's back to newschannel5.com. Police ID woman fatally stabbed at Nashville condo. At 3:55:59, roughly a minute, almost 2 minutes later, he's on a website called WBRC. And the page of this one is nurse killed in stabbing at Wedgwood condo. Police searching for suspect. At 3:56, he's at the same page again, WBRC. Nurse killed in stabbing at Wedgwood condo. Police searching for suspect. And then roughly 4 or 5 minutes later, at 4:03:55, he's on a site called io9.com, and he's actually on a page, just how incriminating is a fingerprint really? And then he's on that page again at 57 seconds. Just how incriminating is a fingerprint really? Then at 4:04:09, he's at lawquestionandanswers.com. And he's on the page titled, "Can your fingerprints be found by police even if you have no criminal record?" And then a minute and a half later, same site, different title, different page. How do police find and use fingerprints to catch criminals? Then at 4:07:24, roughly almost 2 minutes after that last search, he's on the Quora site again. What happens after police get a fingerprint match? And then at 4:07:37, he's accessing his Google account. And then at 4:07:40, he's back to the site. What happens after police get a fingerprint match? He's there again at 42. The page probably reloaded. What happens after police get a fingerprint match? 4:03, 43, 44, the same thing. He's on there for probably, it looks like, almost a little over a minute on that site, how do police find and use fingerprints to catch criminals? And then that minute later, at 4:08:46 p.m., he's on Wikipedia, and he's on their APHIS site, their page, Integrated Automated Fingerprint Identification System. Roughly 2 minutes later, he's back to the other site, Quora. How long after fingerprints are lifted do police make an arrest? 3 minutes later, a little over 3 minutes later, he's on timesdaily.com. Loretto woman killed in Nashville. At 4:14:51, a minute and 20 seconds later, 23-year-old nurse in Wedgwood, Houston, stabbing, Antioch, Tennessee, patch.com. Then he's on his Boost mobile account, Boost again, Boost and Boost, home, and that's it. 4:16 on the 28th. And then at 4:17, he's on www.pornhub.com. Pornhub is a site, active site and a popular site for adult pornography. Has different categories. He's on that site at 4/17/09. At 4/17/22, he's on the Pornhub site and he types in a search term. And the search term is murderotica suffocation. At 4/17/43, he accesses a page on Pornhub, a video. The video is titled, Bondage Suffocation, Raylan Ann is a sexy hot blonde who is so pounding. At 4/17/43, again, we have the murderotica suffocation search term. That page gets loaded. And then finally at 4/18/19, back to that same video again. Bondage suffocation, Raylan Lynn is a sexy hot blonde who is so pounding. Then there's a gap in the internet history, and it's 6/15/52, so a little over 2 hours after that. He's back to newschannel5.com. Police ID woman fatally stabbed at Nashville condo. 2 minutes later, he's on heavy.com. Tiffany Ferguson murder. 5 fast facts you need to know from heavy.com. Then at 6/37/10, he's at a website called Meme Crunch. This is a website, if we've seen all of these pictures on the internet, where you can take a picture and then put wording on that picture and post that picture up to make something comical or funny. He creates a picture on that website on Meme Crunch with the text, Josh is gay. And then at 6/37/18, he goes back to that video again on Pornhub.com that he found from the murderotica suffocation search term. Bondage suffocation, Raylan A. is a sexy hot blonde who is so pounding. Then there's a gap between 6:37 in the evening and 8:33. And at 8:33, he's on a DNA website, frequently asked questions, and it's the Forensics Genetics Policy Initiative. And the website is http://dnapolicyinitiative.org. And then at 8:36, he's back to newschannel5.com again. Police ID woman fatally stabbed at Nashville condo.
And Detective Gish, I know that there's obviously more internet history, but I'm going to stop you there. Were you able to identify that mobile device as belonging to Christopher McLawhorn?
I was.
And did you locate any other items, specifically photos or anything that you were specifically asked to look for by Detective Chandler?
I was. In the briefing from Detective Chandler, when he dropped the phone off in the timeline, I knew that there were certain articles of evidence recovered from the crime scene and the flight from the crime scene. He described one of these articles of evidence to me as being a gray toboggan. And the gray toboggan had a patch on the front of the gray toboggan that looked kind of like a Nintendo controller, a rectangle patch. He advised that this toboggan had been recovered on the railroad tracks from the flight of the scene by the suspect. And going through McLawhorn's phone, I actually carved all of the images out of there. I haven't went through all of the images yet because there's thousands of them, but I was able to recover the suspect wearing that same hat. It was actually recovered from a system location on the computer that was self-explanatory when I read it, data/root/data/com.facebook. So it was probably posted to Facebook at that time. And it was created. It's important because it was created at this location when it was more than likely uploaded to Facebook on 2/27/17 at 12:47 a.m. So roughly maybe 27, 28 hours before the homicide.
And Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that that photograph with the data that Detective Gish located from the phone be entered as an exhibit to this hearing. And I believe that he has a copy of the photograph.
I do
And
have
just,
some markings on here.
Actually, I have another copy that can be entered.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Detective Gish, did Detective Chandler give you another mobile device to analyze?
Yes, ma'am.
And did he have a very specific initial request of information that he wanted you to look for?
He did. This, it was another cell phone. This was a Kyocera cell phone, and it was from a witness that Detective Chandler had termed, and his name was Joshua Williford. And at the time, whenever he dropped off the suspect's phone, he also dropped off Williford's phone at the same time. I was able to do Williford's phone as well with Celebrite, and there was a specific set of data that Detective Chandler was seeking that he had seen from a screenshot on that phone from the witness, Williford, and I was able to find that, and it was text messages.
And could you describe that, and do you have a kind of printout preliminary report of that text message conversation that you located on Mr. Williford's device?
I do, and let me be clear again, just like with McLawhorn's phone, I'm probably only 10 to 25% done with this phone. So there's a lot of other potential evidence that could still be on there, but this is what I recovered pretty quickly because Detective Chandler leaded me in this direction. It is chat messages from between Williford and McLawhorn. And again, this is coming from Williford's phone.
Were you able to identify the contact number, the phone numbers, and it kind of match them up to Mr. McLawhorn's phone that you were analyzing as well as Mr. Williford's?
I was, and he also has, Williford has the suspect in here under the phone number and also under a contact name named McChris.
And if you could describe that text message conversation.
Right. Again, Judge, all of these are going to be on 228. The first message is from McLawhorn to Williford, and this is at 8:13:40 p.m. Dude, I'm in a fucking interrogation room over some shit I don't even know what the fuck they talking about. Williford responds, WTH, what the fuck? And that's at 8:14:10. At 8:14:36, McLawhorn responds back, a goddamn murder. At 8:14:51, Williford responds back, what? Question mark, question mark. Who? Question mark, question mark. Then McLawhorn responds back to him at 8:16:16. They said some girl got stabbed and killed last night, and supposedly they are investigating a bunch of people downtown. Next text message from him. So all of the remaining text messages are all from McLawhorn with no response from Williford. And they all run between 8:16:16. The next one is 8:16:34. I was just drinking my Fireball and I got fucking surrounded. Bro, please tell me you're downtown. I got to buy a blunt. ASAP, LOL. They are doping me back. They are dropping me back on Broadway now. And then at 8:23:49 from McLawhorn, funny pics, Josh, you got me beat. Then at 9:05:26 from McLawhorn to Williford. If cops ever ask you what I was doing, I was drinking, hanging out, and I don't have bags or nothing, just the clothes on my back. And I got into it with someone, but you don't know much because you were playing music. And then at 11:29:45 p.m. You ever come downtown? This is again from McLawhorn. My phone died and I dozed off a couple hours ago.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that that one page of messages be entered as an exhibit to this hearing, and I have a clean copy that can be entered. Honor, I don't have any other questions for this witness.
So you're an expert in digital forensics,
I am.
and in particular, in this case, it looks like you were doing cell phones, right? Cell phone analysis.
That's right.
And you said that is it program or software uses Cellbrite?
That's right.
And this data extraction can include text messages, which we see some of, phone calls too, right?
That's right.
Which maybe are still being downloaded, and internet searches, which we saw some of.
A lot more than that.
Okay.
We didn't get into the process, and I don't know how much you want me to get into the process, Judge. It can be very lengthy explanation, but in a nutshell, when we're dealing with an extraction from a cell phone, we get three different types of an extraction. We can get a logical extraction. That's just what the user kind of sees right there in the different folders. Pictures, cell phone history, that sort of thing. Then we can get a file system extraction. That would be the same as the logical, but a few more system files. And then what we like to have, the best extraction, is a physical extraction. If it's an 8 gigabyte phone and we're able to get a physical extraction of that device, we get a bit for bit image where we get the total 8 gigabyte from the first bit to the last bit. And that's what type of extraction that I recovered from your client's phone. So I got the entire phone. I just haven't had the time yet to go through it.
I have a few questions about Cellbrite and things that may end up being deleted from a phone.
Sure.
With deleted data in any phone or in any device, sometimes it's user deleted and sometimes it is, I guess, device deleted. Is that accurate?
Can be.
And is there a way to tell if the user was the one who deleted it or if the device just naturally deleted it?
Yeah, he did not have auto safe search turned on his internet. So that's what, when you talk about system deleting something, every time you would go to a web page and then once you close the app out, the system itself would delete that for you because you've instructed your phone to actually clean out your internet history.
Okay.
All of this internet history that I recovered from his phone had not been deleted.
All right, so that was not something that was deleted and you had to recover. I have a few questions about just obtaining the phone. Where did you get it? Who gave it to you?
Detective Chandler.
Okay. And you wouldn't be the person, I take it there was a search warrant for the phone?
There was.
You wouldn't be the person to swear that out, though, right?
No.
But I take it you would read it before searching so that you'd know what you were looking for?
That's right, I did.
This might not be your department, stop me if it's not. Cell phone tower communication, do you know if the phone was used to determine location by cell phone tower communication?
Well, we have three detectives in our unit, or four actually. Corey Sanderson, who is our sergeant, and then Jay Moyer, Tony Howell, and Chad High. That is not my department. That's Chad High's department and his expertise, and I know that he is processing that data as we speak.
All right, but that's not something that you looked into, that's it?
No.
I have just a few questions. I don't want to go back through all the internet history, but I have a few questions just for clarification. Do you have it in front of you?
I do.
I guess my first question, how I'll start this is, there's Google, which is something that you would type a search into, right?
That's right.
And then websites in particular, not all websites, but most have a headline or a title to the website.
All web pages, or most of them, have a filler that the web server or the webmaster can put a title in the page.
And so, for example, if I were to Google Metro Nashville Police, just those three words, we would see in the Google search that I typed those three words in, right?
That's right.
And if I were to click on the first headline, it might say Metro Nashville Police Department.
Good.
And if that happened to be the title of the website, and we would see that then come up in here as the actual website, or not web address, but actual website visited.
Yeah, you could. It would show up.
And is that, I suppose, just in particular, if you look at let's see here. If you look at the very first couple on the first page that you have there, like We go to Google, and it says, woman fatal, look at the fourth one down, woman fatally stabbed in Nashville's Wedgwood neighborhood.
Right?
That wouldn't be necessarily what's typed in. That might be what is resulted from the search.
Right. If you look up above that in the URL listing, so in line number 3, https www.google, see that? Mm-hmm. And then if we scroll all the way over, we see Q equals Nashville. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
That's query. So that means query. That's what was typed into the Google bar. Once you type in, and he typed in Nashville, Tennessee stabbing, once that's typed into Google, Google will then give you suggestions on something related to that search term that you just typed in. One of the top suggestions would have been woman fatally stabbed in Nashville's Wedgwood neighborhood at the Tennessean.com. That would have been clicked on at that point. But no, to answer your question, the title page on the left in the middle was not physically typed in by the user.
All right, thank you. And I just, one last question for you. I guess, are you going to make a report of all of this, all your findings once the phone is finished?
It'll be a big report, yes, sir.
I think so.
Thank you, Judge. You too.
Next witness will be Josh Williford. Your Honor, I'm not sure if he's been sworn yet. He was not here originally when the other witnesses were sworn.
Raise your right hand and be sworn, please. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Would you please state your name and spell your last name?
Joshua Williford, Williford.
And Mr. Williford, do you have a nickname that you go by or you're known as?
Josh.
Have you ever been referred to as Guitar Josh?
I guess probably
Okay. And why is that?
because I play guitar.
Okay. Where do you normally play guitar?
I set up on the street for a while. That's what I made my income with when I first got to Nashville.
And do you know an individual by the name of Christopher McLawhorn?
I do.
Do you see that individual here today?
I do.
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing?
He's wearing an orange jumpsuit.
Let the record reflect, Your Honor, he's identified the defendant. How long have you known Mr. McLawhorn?
I've known him since 2015, I believe 2015, back in North Carolina.
And did you assist Mr. McLawhorn in coming to Nashville?
I did.
How did you assist him?
I was looking for a change of scene and scenery, and planning to move here to pursue my music career. And I knew that I didn't have a lot of money to get a place to live, so I was going to be living in my truck for a little while. And he was homeless at the time, and
this is in North Carolina?
Mm-hmm. And he had said that he'd like to come along, and I figured it would help to have a friend have my back, so I brought him along.
And when was that?
We arrived the 30th of July in 2015, I believe it was. Yeah, 2015.
Ultimately, at some point, did you move into a residence other than your vehicle?
Yes, I moved to over on Trinity Lane. I bought a trailer, RV, and stayed there on 1905 Dickerson Pike.
And did you allow Mr. McLawhorn to stay with you at the trailer on occasion?
He had actually gone home before I actually moved into the trailer, so he was back in North Carolina. And I was living in the trailer by myself. And this most recent time when he came back up here, I didn't have any money to go home to see my family for Christmas, and we were all getting together before Christmas. So he'd offered me he wanted to come back up here. He offered me, instead of getting a ticket to come back, he offered me $100 to give him a ride back here. So it made it so I could go see my family. And so that was the 17th of December when he actually came back. And I let him crash on the couch in my trailer for a couple of weeks. He was with the expectation of him getting a job, and he had gotten a job at Love's on Trinity Lane, and he kept the job for about 2 weeks. But after that, I was making arrangements to move into a new place where I'm living now, and he knew that whenever I moved there that he wasn't going to be staying with me, that he had to do his own thing. So at that point, he went out on his own and either stayed at the Mission or wherever he was staying.
Now, did you have a telephone, a cell phone on or about February 28th of this year?
Yes.
And did you at some point provide that phone to the Metro Police Department?
I did.
And did you also at the same time have somewhere in your possession or knew where Mr. McLawhorn's phone was?
Yes, it was in my truck. Yeah.
And what did you do with Mr. McLawhorn's phone?
I gave it to the police officer.
Specifically on or about February 28th of 2017, did you receive text messages from Mr. McLawhorn?
Yes, ma'am.
And were those text messages still on your phone at the time that you provided that to Metro Police?
Yes, they were.
And you're familiar with Mr. McLawhorn's telephone number, and that's who you were corresponding with?
Yes.
Now, did you have an occasion after February 28th of 2017 to see Mr. McLawhorn with some injuries to his neck?
I did. Yeah.
Would you please tell the judge what you saw and what conversation, if any, Mr. McLawhorn had with you about those injuries?
He had 2 marks about right here and here, and he had told me that he had jumped over a barbed wire fence, and on his way over the fence, on the other side of the fence, he had caught his neck on the fence, and he had told me in pretty good detail that he had to pull off the skin off of the barb, and I didn't have a reason at the time not to believe him. So, and I hadn't heard of the case at that point. So,
going back to that text message, which has already been introduced into evidence, but specifically in that text message, there's mention about some instructions about essentially what you should tell the police.
Yeah.
Were the things that were in that text message to you to tell the police, was that the truth? Had he been with you during that time?
I'm not sure of the question.
The text message that Mr. McLawhorn sent to you about, well, first of all, the fact that he only had the clothes, essentially the clothes on his back. Was that true?
He had been away for several days, and the last time I had seen him was when after the storm. There was a storm that day, I believe, the day after this had happened, and I rode my bicycle downtown and then I ended up running across him, and that's when I first saw him with the marks on his neck. He had sent me, whenever he sent me the text messages, he had been picked up by the police officer that day for questioning and released, but he had texted me while he was actually in the room with a detective. I believe he was still in the room. He said, or he had just got out, I believe, and he had said to if the police were to contact me, to tell them that all he had was the clothes on his back and that he didn't have anything else.
Did he also make mention to you about the two of you being together downtown on Broadway?
Yeah,
during the time?
I mean, I had played the guitar that night before, and I played music on the street, and he usually hangs around downtown, so when I would play music, I would see him, and that's the only way I was really associated with him after the point where he wasn't, staying at my house.
But you don't have any specific memory of him being with you like he instructed you to tell the police?
No,
correct?
he wasn't with me. He had texted me. I guess he thought the police would contact me in some way. So
if you had told the police what he texted you to say, that would have been a lie? correct?
Yes, yeah, that would have been a lot, because he told me he did have, had clothes, he had a stash spot that he had put his clothes.
So he did have access to more than one pair of clothes.
Yes.
Also, did you have an opportunity, both yourself and with the police, to view certain surveillance footage that was being aired by the television stations?
Yes.
And were those images of an individual with a toboggan hat in the area of a certain apartment complex?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you viewed that surveillance video, were you able to recognize that individual?
Yeah, I could identify him.
And who was that individual in the surveillance video?
That was Chris McLawhorn.
Christopher McLawhorn. And what was it about him that made you so sure he was the individual in that surveillance video?
Well, I could tell his face, could tell by the way he walked, and by the way he adjusted his pants.
Is that something that's a common habit, a movement that he frequently makes?
Yeah. Yeah.
I may have just a moment. Thank you, sir.
I want to start back when you first met Mr. McLawhorn. Was that, I think you said North Carolina?
Yes, sir.
And were you friends growing up, or about what age did you meet him?
When I was 21, right before I moved here, I just got to know him a little bit, and I try to help people, and I knew he was in just in a situation where he was homeless, and I try to look out for people.
And that was in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Then at some point, I guess, he had thought to move here, you thought to move here?
Yeah, I decided to move here, and he knew about my decision, and he wanted to come along because he figured there would be more opportunity here to get a job, and.
And I think you said that was a couple months ago? December?
Well, this most recent time was December 17th. The first time we arrived here was July 30th, 2015.
I want to talk in particular about just some of the days
It's the most recent.
leading up to and after the homicide. I'm sure you know the range of dates now, the area, February 27th, 28th, around then. When was the last time you had seen him before that 27th, 28th time?
Well, whenever I moved into my apartment, that was the 9th of, where I'm living now is the 9th of February is when I moved in there. And I let him crash a few days, and just to wash his clothes and take a shower. And then after that point, he knew that he had to leave because of my lease. And so he went off and did his own thing. I'd seen him while I was playing out in the street, playing guitar. I don't really know the exact last time I had seen him because I had seen him pretty often just playing out on the street.
And the times that you didn't see him between that, were you texting with him frequently, on a daily basis?
We'd correspond here and there. I didn't. I'd look out for him just because he was the only person. I was the only person he knew. But.
A couple of days after the homicide happened, I know you might not have known that it had happened, but a couple of days after that, were you and him driving with a dog and another person named Josh?
Yeah, I believe we were on the car.
Where were y'all headed?
No telling. I think we were just around downtown. Probably went to the store and back. Possibly. So.
Just hanging out then?
Yeah, around the time when I was playing music and stuff.
You came into, at some point, contact with the police, right?
I did.
Not that night. I'm not talking about that night. I'm talking about just in general.
Yeah, after that.
When you came into contact with the police, did you call them or did they call you, or how did that happen?
They showed up at my house. I'd heard that he'd been picked up the night before, and I mentioned to a police officer in the area. After that, I was like asking him about it, and I gave that police officer my address to talk to me if he needed, So I'm not sure if he was the one to give them my address or how that happened, but they ended up coming to my house and they investigated, they searched my vehicle, searched my room, and I gave him his phone, all of his whatever belongings he had in the truck, and a full reign of checking out the whole house and everything. So.
At what point in time did you learn he was a potential suspect?
Actually, I looked into it as soon as he had been picked up the first time for questioning, which I'm not sure what day that was at this point. I'm not sure what day that was, but after I realized that he had, so I guess whenever I got that text message from him, at that point was whenever I looked it up online and saw the video surveillance and the article.
We heard some of your testimony about some text messages back and forth, and something about he asked you to cover for him or say that I was with you and playing music. Does that, you just mentioned
Well,
it.
he didn't say I was with you playing music. I don't recall saying that, but he.
Go ahead.
But yeah, he did text me and say if the police were to ask or contact me to tell them that I didn't know why, I didn't understand why, but he said to tell them that all he had was clothes on his back, that he didn't have his backpack or anything like that, which he didn't. That would have been a lie.
Yeah, that string of messages is what I'm talking about. When you read that, do you remember where you were or what you were doing?
I think I was just at my house. Yeah, chilling at my house.
What was your reaction when you read that?
I thought it was suspicious, but I didn't respond to it.
All right, thank you, Judge.
No further questions of this witness, Your Honor. Your Honor, we have one last witness called Detective Chandler. Yes. Could you please state your name and where you're employed?
Anthony Chandler. I'm employed with the Metropolitan Police Department, assigned to Defendant investigations.
Detective, did you have an occasion to become involved in the investigation of a homicide that occurred on February 28th of 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that location here in Davidson County?
Yes, ma'am. It was located at 760 Wedgewood Park.
And while we're at it, did you ultimately develop as a suspect an individual by the name of Christopher Drew McLawhorn?
Yes, we did.
And do you see that person here in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am. He's sitting at the defense table next to counsel and the orange jumpsuit.
Thank you. Detective, first of all, what was the location, the actual address where this homicide took place?
The specific address was 760 Wedgewood Park, and it's apartment 102.
When you arrived on the scene, was Miss Tiffany Ferguson still present?
No, she was not. I was advised by the officers that were already on the scene that she had been transported to medical hospital.
Did you have an opportunity, however, to that morning view the scene and certain pieces of evidence at the scene?
Yes, I did.
I would like to hand you, first off, these 10 photographs which show the outside area of that apartment complex. You had an opportunity to view these photographs previously. And on a few of those photographs, there are actually some circles that have been added. Do you recognize that first photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you could just hold it up and explain to the judge what the purpose of that photograph is, what it shows.
This photograph is the corner of the building. This is actually Williford Park that goes along in front of the apartments. This part of the road right here is where originally Boulevard is, and actually goes back up away from the apartments. The circle right here around this drawn around the door is where first it was confirmed that the property of Tiffany Ferguson was located.
Now, if you could, the next photograph, could you pick that up and describe that?
This is a little bit further over from that one. This is an actual straight shot down Wedgewood Park.
And the next photograph?
This is a little bit closer than that one away from the corner. This is actually, her apartment is just down on this side here. Where the blue circle is where the electrical box was. It was just on the other side of the gate where the video surveillance that was released was found. This is where the jewelry that was taken out of the apartment is located. Pink circle right here is where a headband was located. The orange is a kind of a fur style black blanket that was located behind one of the vehicles of the apartment.
Next photograph, please.
This is the closer view. The arrow here is actually pointing to the apartment itself. This blue circle is around the jewelry that was hidden right around the inside of this electrical box. This orange circle here is over the blanket that I was talking about, the first style gray and white blanket.
In fact, speaking about that blanket, were there two other blankets that appeared to be part of a set of 3 blankets that
Yes.
matched this blanket?
Yes, ma'am. There was a blanket that was almost identical to this, as well as a pillow that was located in the bedroom itself of this first.
Next photograph, please.
This is going to be from the opposite direction. This is actually from the apartment itself to where the yellow arrow is. Blue circle again is around the electrical box. The orange circle is actually going to be around the blanket. And the red arrow is going to be going down to where the headband is located, further down the sidewalk.
Next photograph, please.
This is just a close-up over the actual blanket that is sitting behind the vehicle.
Next photograph.
This is a close-up of the electrical box. You can see the other side there. You can see the gate right here in the background. Electrical box, the evidence marker right here is marking where the jewelry was located.
And then you mentioned about the electrical box and surveillance video. Would that be the area where the surveillance video captures an individual walking around the suspected time of the homicide?
Correct.
And was that actually on the surveillance camera where the video footage was released to the media?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Next photograph, please.
This is going to be a more direct shot over the actual gate itself. The camera is actually just back up here shooting back this way, and that's when he was captured. Again, the evidence marker just on the other side of the electrical box where the jewelry was located.
Next photograph, please.
This is actually going to be on the first photo where we're showing the corner where the purse was. That is actually just around the side of the gate. You see the camera here. That evidence marker is on a plane ticket that bears the name for Tiffany Ferguson that had come out of the purse.
Next photograph.
Here's a close-up of the actual plane ticket. You see bearing the name Tiffany Ferguson, her information.
So did all these items of evidence appear to be consistent with being in a path of flight from the homicide?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Your Honor, at this time we'd ask that those 2 photographs be collected, Exhibit A through J. Now, when you entered into the home of Miss Ferguson, were you able to determine which bedroom was Miss Ferguson's?
Yes, ma'am. As you're proceeding into the apartment itself, you go through the living room area, and kitchen area. There are 2 bedrooms at the end of the hallway that the doors kind of face each other. Miss Ferguson was on the left-hand side.
I've just handed you 5 photographs. Do you recognize those to be photographs taken of the inside of Miss Ferguson's apartment complex?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
If you would, hold up the first photograph and explain to the judge what it depicts.
This is it. This is actually going to be a photograph of Miss Ferguson's bed itself. This is where the blood was as far as where she was located, and once she was moved down and treated in the floor, you see where the blood pattern is along the path, and then there's also more blood over here.
And does there appear to be a pattern that is consistent with a cast-off pattern?
Yes, it does.
And the next photograph, please.
This is actually a close-up that is marked with evidence markers that is of an actual entry wound under the actual blanket itself.
And was that blanket actually collected by police and determined to have numerous holes consistent with a knife cutting through it?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Next photograph, please.
This is actually a little bit closer up the bed. You can see where the cast-off is on the pillowcases on this side and this side, and as well as the centralized where the blood was on the bed.
Next photograph, please.
This is going to be an overall view of the kitchen. There's going to be a little island right here in the middle of the kitchen. Along right beside the stove is a knife block where there was a various big set of knives. What we did was realize that a few of the knives were actually missing out of the block.
And the next photograph?
Here's a close-up of the missing spots coming out of the block itself for the knives.
Your Honor, we'd ask that those 5 photographs be the state's next exhibit A through E.
Thank you. Any objection?
No, sir.
Now, you mentioned specifically items that were beside the silver box. Did you determine that to in fact be jewelry?
Yes, ma'am. It was identified as jewelry belonging to Tiffany Ferguson and to her roommate, Kelsey Cooper.
Ask that you be handed these next 6 photographs, please. Once you saw the dropping of items, did that give you some indication of a potential path of flight from the suspect? And did you and other officers follow along that path of flight?
Yes, we did.
And as you continued along that path of flight, were other items of evidentiary value found?
Yes, ma'am. As we continued along Ridley Boulevard, just on the other side of the fence, there's a grassy area, then there's a fence that separates the interstate from that area. Just on the other side is a silver MacBook laptop computer, which was identified as the property of Ms. Ferguson, as well as a kitchen knife that still had blood on it.
And were photographs taken of the location of where those items were, along with photographs of those items?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
And is that what is contained in those 6 photographs you have before you?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
If you would, please show those and explain those to the judge.
These are actually on the opposite side of the fence. This is going to be the exit ramp to Wedgewood from 65 South. This is going to be the outside view looking through the brush. You see there's the outline of the computer itself. You can see the chain link fence in the background.
And in fact, there is a chain link fence there?
Yes, ma'am. There's a close-up of the computer itself and on the ground. Here's the knife that's on each side. The next picture is going to be of the knife itself with the evidence marker. You can see the imitation of the blood on the end of it. This photo is actually after the knife had been collected by ID in the box itself along with the ID marker.
And that shows the brand of the knife.
That is the overall shot. This is the one that actually shows the brand of the knife, which is consistent with the knives that were found in the block that was located in the kitchen.
Now, you mentioned the blood that was apparent on the knife. Was that submitted for forensic analysis?
It was.
And in fact, did DNA testing reveal that blood to match the profile of Tiffany Ferguson?
It did.
Once you had taken the path of flight as far as the knife and Miss Ferguson's computer, what efforts did you make to continue to follow that flight path?
Later on in the investigation, we were able to actually continue all the way up Ridley Boulevard. It actually comes up to Hamilton Avenue, which crosses over the interstate. Once you go across the interstate back toward Fort Ridley Boulevard, there's actually a trail we found that cuts back down to the railroad tracks. We were able to follow that railroad track, and further down there is a business, 518 Hagen Street. It's a truck business that they have a fenced-in lot that's in the back that backs up right against the train tracks themselves. We were able to contact the business and pull video surveillance from that location. In the time frame that would match with the suspect fleeing the area, there is the defendant observed on video climbing over a fence, stepping down onto one of the rims that was up against the fence, and then crossing across the parking lot.
Now, was there anything particular about the individual's clothing on that surveillance video?
In the individual's clothing, and from that particular video, he was carrying what appeared to be a jacket and a t-shirt. He threw them over the fence, then as he climbed over the fence himself, picked them up and took them with him.
From the surveillance video, were you able to determine anything significant about the bare back of that individual?
Based on the video that we were able to see, he had a very large amount of hair on his chest, but he also had a very distinctive pattern of hair on his back. It was almost an upside down pyramid right above the waistline.
I'd ask that you be handed this photograph. And Your Honor, if we could move those previous 6 photographs in as a collective exhibit A through F.
Any objection?
You've been provided a photograph there. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that a photograph of?
This is a photograph of the defendant. After the interview, we had him sign a consent to allow us to take photographs of him and any potential injuries that he had him remove his shirt and took one of the front, side, and back. This is the actual back photo that we took.
And if you could hold that up and describe what's distinctive about that photograph.
As you can see here, that very distinctive pattern right there about the waistline, where his hair is on his back.
And was that distinctive pattern of back hair consistent with the distinctive pattern of back hair that you were able to see on the video surveillance?
It was.
Your Honor, at this time, we'd ask that that photograph be introduced. I'd like to now hand you 6 additional photographs. Do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
I do.
And if you would, please explain to the judge what they're showing.
These photographs were actually from the railroad track itself on the business at 518 Hagen Street. This is the actual fence right here beside the building. You can see the video camera that's right over here. This is a close-up of the video camera itself that covers over the fence itself. Just on the other side of the fence is where they had some old rims that were stacked up as a manner of storing them along the fence. This picture is of a boot print that we were able to photograph and collect. That was taken from one of the rims that was stacked there. And the video surveillance itself, it does show the defendant stepping down and using that to stop himself as he's going over the fence. When we were traveling along the railroad tracks, we were able to locate a certain item of clothing. This was a gray toboggan with the original Nintendo controller logo on the front. It was right in the middle of the railroad tracks on the 3rd track. And you go straight across the tracks from that location, exactly where we saw him on video surveillance going over the fence itself. This is a picture of where we had to move the toboggan off the tracks that we were trying to. So this is where we had been ID collected from this location. This is an actual overall shot going down the track. It was found right here in the middle of it.
Your Honor, we ask those 6 photographs be the state's next exhibit. That particular toboggan with the Nintendo classic game controller logo on it, were you able to actually view a photograph of the defendant wearing an identical type hat?
I was. As part of doing research on the defendant, we were able to access his social media files, which included Facebook. There was a photo of himself that he took the day of February the 27th that was posted to Facebook of him wearing an identical hat.
Now, was the defendant interviewed by police?
Yes.
And what, if any, statements did the defendant make about whether or not he was ever in the area, this particular area of Nashville at the time or nearby?
The defendant completely denied that he was ever in the area. There was certain times where he denied he even knew where the area was.
And when the defendant was being interviewed, did he in fact have access to his telephone?
Yes, in his original interview he did.
And was he seen to actually be texting at some point on his telephone during that interview?
Yes, ma'am.
And you later obtained that phone, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Along with a phone from Josh Williford?
Yes, ma'am.
And you submitted those for examination, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Search warrants were obtained on both phones.
Hand you this photograph here. Do you recognize that photograph?
I do. It is a photograph of the defendant.
And that particular photograph, are there certain injuries on the defendant?
Yes, ma'am. He actually has what would be 2 scratch marks, one on each side, very distinctive away from the middle of his throat. The one is just near about the throat, the other one is further around on the side of the neck almost.
Now, we've had an opportunity to hear the testimony of Mr. Dalrymple. Were you able to corroborate by collecting certain surveillance videos? Were you able to corroborate Mr. Dalrymple's statement to you about his travels on that particular evening?
Yes, ma'am. Based on this statement, we give us a specific area where we were able to pull the street cameras from the downtown area, as well as reviewing videos, other video surveillance in the area. I was able to capture Mr. Dalrymple and the defendant as they were traveling down Broadway on the night before, roughly approximately around 2:52 a.m. They traveled down First Avenue, crossing over to Montgomery. I was able to catch them from the cameras, and then also was able to find video surveillance us of them crossing over Korean veterans. Approximately about 10 minutes later, they came back across Korean veterans, back down First Avenue, and then proceeded north on Broadway.
Detective, did you have the opportunity to attend the autopsy of Tiffany Ferguson, the resident of this apartment that we've seen photographs of?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you able to observe injuries to her body?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Would you please explain those injuries?
She had multiple stab wounds to her body. One was in the hip buttock area. She had another small cut that was just north of the pubic area. She had another that was an entry and an exit to the back of her arm. There was a stab wound directly in the side that the doctor explained did actually strike the diaphragm. And there were 3 stab wounds across her chest, one on each side and one in the very middle. All 3 of those went through the ribs and either punctured part of her lung, part or a combination of the 2. The doctor instructed me that all 3 of those stab wounds were fatal injuries.
Wait just a moment. Have a question, John.
I think you're the lead detective on this?
Yes, sir.
When you got the phone call to come to the crime scene, where were you?
I was on my way in for the day.
Okay, so you were just starting a shift or just finishing a
Just
shift?
beginning the shift.
And do you remember who called you?
I was notified by a supervisor.
Okay, who probably heard it from somebody who was either there or from dispatch?
I'm not for sure exactly how they're notified, but that's who notified me.
Was supervisor at the crime scene when you got there?
Correct.
And when you arrived, was it already blocked off, like with yellow tape and everything?
Yes.
I'm going to ask. I know you went over the pictures of the area, so I'm not going to go into too much detail because I think I got a good idea. But it's condominiums, right?
Correct.
And the door to Miss Ferguson's leads directly to the outside.
Yes.
And the neighboring units, they have doors that lead directly to the outside, right?
Correct.
And which I guess to get into Miss Ferguson's, you wouldn't have to go through any other doors.
There is a back door, but it was secured.
What I mean by that is you don't have to. It's not mandatory that you enter another door to even get to Miss Ferguson's door.
No, it's not.
And did this door face the street?
It faced into the parking lot that would have been facing Wedgewood Avenue.
And when you arrived, were there civilian cars parked just outside of her place?
Yes, there were.
And did you take down any license plates or information on those cars?
Yes, some of the license plates were taken down.
And did you add those to whatever reports you'd written?
I'm not sure exactly which reports they're added to. They're notated though.
It sounds like you found a number of items that you linked to that condo, right?
Correct.
Did you see any drops of blood or torn clothing at the walkway up to the front door?
There were drops of blood as they exited out of the apartment.
And does that include inside and out through the doorway?
Correct. It was through the actual, down the hallway to the living room itself.
What about ripped clothing?
Not for me. Clothing, not off my head.
Did you examine the front door?
I did.
Did you examine the lock on the door?
I did.
And is this a situation where it was a deadbolt and a doorknob lock, or just one or the other?
If I remember correctly, it was both.
Both. And I take it you looked at both of those. Then, if it was both, you looked at both.
Right.
And did it appear to be? Well, I don't want to say broken, but was there a problem with the lock?
Not that it was apparent.
Okay, so visually there was no problem with the lock.
Correct.
So I guess from both the outside and the inside, if you looked at the door handle or the lock, you wouldn't be able to tell that there was something wrong with it.
Correct.
Did you examine any of the from the outside? Did you examine any other door handles or door locks from other units in that condominium complex?
I did notice the ones that were adjacent on both sides.
Were they similar, the same, different?
They did appear to be the same.
Did you later determine that there was something wrong with the lock?
No, we did not.
Was there any sign of a breaking, or did it look like the suspect had opened it with the handle?
There was no sign of forced entry.
And what I mean by that is no screwdriver marks or no marks by the.
Correct.
Didn't see any of that.
That's what I'm sorry.
Is it a 2-bedroom unit?
3.
3-bedroom unit? Do you know how many people were living there?
There were 3 people that were living there at the time.
And Miss Ferguson had her own bedroom,
Correct.
and the other 2 had their own bedroom?
Correct.
Did any of the bedrooms share a wall?
Yes, she actually would have shared a wall with the adjacent bedroom that was to the right. The occupant of that bedroom was not in the apartment that long.
I think you said that the other bedroom then, the door's face, Miss Ferguson's door faces the door of the other bedroom, right?
Correct.
And then the bedroom, not the bedroom that faces it, but the first one you mentioned, would you have to walk by that to get into Miss Ferguson's room?
Yes.
I think that you mentioned that Miss Ferguson's body had been removed by the time you got there.
Correct.
Were you able to determine or find out whether or not some of the drops of blood were from that removal or from the suspect?
I was told that it was possible if they were from when she was removed on medics, but I have not been confirmed any of that.
Is that kind of hard to tell?
For me, yes.
ID was called to the scene?
Yes, they processed the scene for us.
Was that you that called ID?
It was one of the officers that was on duty beforehand.
Okay, were you there when they got there?
Yes, I was.
And typically in a homicide, or really any time ID comes out, whoever's on the scene will inform them of kind of what is going on, so they know what to look for.
Correct.
Did you speak with the ID officers?
I did.
All right, and ID, just to give an idea of ID, some of their responsibilities are to take photos like we saw, right?
Correct.
They'll also dust for fingerprints,
Correct.
and they'll, I guess, is it swab or look for DNA evidence?
Correct.
And they'll collect any physical evidence that they may see.
Yes.
And of course, when you got to the scene, you didn't know who killed Miss Ferguson, right?
Correct.
And at that time, were you still of the mindset that it could either be a stranger or someone she was familiar with?
At the time, we were still gathering all the information we could at that time, just how limited our information was.
Okay, so it really could have been either then at that time.
Correct.
I want to talk a little bit about just DNA and fingerprint, where it was collected, and in particular DNA, because fingerprints. If somebody's wearing gloves, fingerprints are unlikely to be found, right?
Correct.
DNA, on the other hand, comes in different forms: saliva, skin cells, hair, blood, sweat, anything like that, right?
Correct.
And that makes it, I guess, more difficult for a suspect to conceal their DNA rather than conceal their fingerprints.
Correct.
When the ID unit got there, did you tell them to look for prints or DNA on the door?
Yes, they were directed. There was not a walkthrough of the entire apartment that was conducted with ID.
Okay, so, but in particular, did you give them any instruction, or was it get everything that you can find?
Most of what I spoke with them about was in regards to the bedroom itself.
Okay, so not in particular to the front door or the front door knob.
Correct.
And when you say the bedroom, you mean, would you include that with the bedroom door?
Yes.
And I take it the bed sheets too?
Correct. All
What, did you have them collect the bed sheets?
yes, all the bedding was collected.
Okay. Did you tell them what to look for shoe prints?
That was just part of the routine crime scene analysis as far as what they conduct for and look for.
So they would have done that absent your instruction?
Correct.
Did you tell them to look for any DNA or fingerprints on any of the neighbors' doors?
I believe there were several that were swapped in apartment doors and car doors.
Now, what made you think to have them do that?
We actually were able to view the video surveillance kind of earlier in the morning. Once we had viewed that is when we had instructed ID to kind of broaden the stroke as far as what they were searching for.
Did you have them look for fingerprints or DNA on Miss Ferguson's car?
I believe hers was one of them.
Do you know how close her car was parked in proximity to the front door?
I believe it was almost directly in front of the unit, maybe just a little more.
I think you said that there was one roommate there and one that wasn't,
Correct.
and I take it you interviewed her?
Yes, sir.
Was that you or was there another detective?
It was me.
All right, and was that at the crime scene or was that at the precinct or someplace?
That interview was conducted in Midtown Hills.
Okay, I take it that was recorded.
Yes, sir.
Was there any statements that you elicited from her that would not have been recorded?
No.
Are there any civilian witnesses that you personally interviewed that you did not record?
No.
Did you ask Ms. Ferguson? I'm not going to go through everything you asked because if it's recorded, I'll be able to see it later, but I have one or two in particular. Did you ask Ms. Ferguson's roommate the names of the people who had been guests recently?
Objection here, Your Honor.
I'm not asking for the names. I'm just asking if those words came out of his mouth.
He already answered.
You say yes to that? I want to move on to the swearing out of the arrest warrant. I think that was your role.
Yes, sir.
And that was on March 8th, right? Does that sound right? At the time of the arrest warrant, I want to talk a little bit about what you knew just at the time of the swearing out of the arrest warrant. At the time of the swearing out of the arrest warrant, you'd seen some surveillance footage, right?
Correct.
And had interviewed some of the other witnesses that had contacted police, right? I think Mr. Dalrymple and Mr. O'Donnell.
Correct.
And at that time, nor I guess at this time, did you have any DNA or fingerprint results back?
We did not receive any results back then.
Are you able to pinpoint at which exact time or what all you had when you determined that Mr. McLawhorn would be the suspect? Well, I'm going to rephrase that. At the time that you determined that, give me 1 second, just don't want to phrase it over.
I understand.
You spoke with, I'm going to move on. You said you met with Mr. McLawhorn,
I did.
took pictures.
Correct.
Did you do the DNA swab in his mouth?
I did not.
Were you present for the DNA swabbing of his mouth?
I was not.
I want to talk a little bit about search warrants. I'm not going to ask you to go through all of them, but I want to just ask you in particular if you were the affiant on anything. Were you the affiant on the cell phone one?
Yes.
I guess you would not have been the affiant then on the DNA swab, right?
He actually signed consent.
Okay. Did you have to get a search warrant for any of his clothing?
Yes.
Were you the affiant on that?
Yes.
And where did you get it from?
Around the Davidson County Sheriff's Office.
And I take it then that would have been the clothing he was wearing at the time of his arrest?
Correct.
At either time that did you only speak with him once?
Me personally, I was part of an interview that was conducted, and then there was a second time that I spoke to him, and then he requested counsel.
Either of those times that you spoke with him, did you examine his hands?
Yes.
And were photographs taken out of his hands?
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, Your Honor. That would be the same for Your Honor.
On Counsel, I'd like to address you on this citation.
That's, may we approach?
Okay. The state is acknowledging the possession, CS 804-49-459. Okay.
I believe the other two warrants are just a testimony we heard.
Okay. Any argument?
No, sir.
All right. No argument. Court finds probable cause found the defendant over GS 804-852, criminal homicide, bond set at $500,000. GS 804-853, especially aggravated burglary, bond set at $250,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.